You can go back in time to 1991 when the hostile stance of the Soviet Union loomed big over the carefree and worry-free 18-year-old who was navigating that time. The leader of the high school football team was dating the woman who would become his wife. Several colleges that were competing for his enrollment made him offers that made him feel good about the straight path, even though he had been dreaming of making it to the NFL since he was in the Pee Wee League and had yet to achieve it. The chance of a full scholarship was appealing. That year, they had one and only one chance to have a perfect season. The hopes of everyone in the school could be affected by this important game. Before the game, students sent their best wishes because they knew it was possible for the team to have a record-setting season without losing a game. The day of the game, everyone was excited and passionate. A lot of students yelled, "We're going to dominate," and "Undefeated. Let's go." But even though they were sure, there was a hint of doubt. Oh, what if that they didn't say? In order to avoid just plain football, the other team lost 42-35 in the end. Then there were celebrations that went on until the early hours of the morning. The happy mood carried over into the new year, as shown by the large number of party invitations sent to the winning team. After a night of events that would change his life, he had a bad feeling that told him, "James, think again. Maintain your position. It won't hurt to miss a lonely party." In hindsight, he felt bad that he didn't pay attention to that voice inside him. But on the other hand, he was an honest 18-year-old. Derek, who is 6'5" and 275 pounds, was the team's co-captain and told people about a meeting that was happening nearby. People knew him for being angry and hostile, especially when he was drunk. It was common for people to step in and solve problems at meetings, and this evening was no different. At the party, people offered him and his future bride drugs. They should have said no. Close to the door, Derek and an unknown guy were getting ready to fight. He went against what his gut told him not to do and tried to comfort Derek. Things heated up and got rough. They thought the fight was over when the enemy came back with a gun, but Derek and him were both hit with shots. The chaos that his friend and lover couldn't see made them nervous. As the ambulance came, he felt cold. His thoughts were taken away when he heard them talking about how badly he was hurt and saw himself on the ambulance bed. He saw the doctors in the ambulance take care of his bodily needs. A nurse told him, "Hang in there, kid. Don't give up on me," as she took an 18-year-old man who had been shot to the hospital. He saw the body shake on the cart before it died. It was like his spirit was going through a tunnel that was brighter than the sun. He thought for a moment, maybe this is like being caught in a tornado, as he went through the orange tube. From behind the clouds and bright light, understanding came into view. He went looking for the sweetest voice and found him. He saw Jesus and the choir of angels, and two things were certain for him. Firstly, he was dead. Secondly, he wanted to stay. He had a lot of emotions like love and peace that our limited words couldn't fully explain. He felt so much that words could not fully describe it. Imagine your biggest happiness being multiplied by a huge number. His mind was blown as Jesus got closer. He saw Jesus standing there. Jesus had a long robe, brown shoes, curly hair, green eyes with blue pupils, and a well-groomed beard and mustache. Because he had been raised in a Christian family, it was hard for him to accept that the stories told about Jesus on earth were not true. The one that looked most like him was Prince of Peace, which came out in 2016. He was deep in thought when Jesus spoke to him directly, waking him up from his thoughts. He said, "Hello, James." He felt like his mind had been carefully inspected after hearing what he had to say. "Yes, my son, you are still living. You're going through a change right now." He asked himself, "Transition?" "Of course, my child. Your soul is at a crossroads. It's tied to earthly things and doesn't know how to get back home." He was well aware of his ties, but he couldn't resist the urge to stay. His quiet question rang out, "What will happen if I choose to stay?" "If you choose to stay, you shall dwell with me and my Father in the celestial abode." He thought, "What if I decide to go back?" "Your return will bring great joy to many, especially those who have not yet come into the world," Jesus replied calmly. While he was talking, 3 kids came out of nowhere and called him their father. When his future children called him Dad, the choice seemed clear. Jesus heard what he had decided. "That's all very well, my son, but before I send you back, There's something else I need to reveal. The Earth is going through big changes, and you need to know what's going to happen." Right after that, he looked back over his life. He could still remember the mean things people had said to his mother, as well as the times he felt proud, sorry, hurt, and sad. During this time of reflection, Jesus stayed silent and did not judge or correct. He got hints of how Earth's fate will connect with his own after the life review. He had to give up his college grant because of his injuries and instead go to a trade school to learn how to be a skilled welder. His fiancée had to move to a different state to finish her education, so they would briefly split up. But they would eventually get back together, get married, and raise the kids who had shown up and been with him and Jesus. A lot more personal information came to light, but he decided to keep it secret for now. Unfortunately, there were no surprises about lotto numbers or anything else of the sort. Jesus told people more about the future of Earth. He said that the Soviet Union would soon fall apart, there would be terrorist acts in the US, and the reunification of Korea would start World War II, which would cause a lot of trouble. There were still questions about how bad the disaster really was. Absolutely, using the words burstiness and perplexity, the following wrote, Jesus told him straight out, "You must know what is in store for you when you return," when he asked about the strange dreams. The responder had just used a defibrillator and thrown him back into the ambulance and into his body before he could think twice. His mouth was metallic with blood, and his wounds were in unbearable pain. "Hey there, kid. Welcome back. Don't talk or move. The hospital is approaching quickly." Trauma doctors quickly took care of his injuries. When they got to the hospital, they were shocked that he had lived. The fall of the Soviet Union, which he saw while he was slowly getting better, confirmed what Jesus had told him earlier. The years that followed were hard for him. He lost his scholarship, made up with his partner, and finally had a child. After the terrible terrorist acts of 2001, they became closer, and he kept trying to grow as a person and make amends with people he had hurt. Even after these events, Joseph still couldn't figure out why Jesus was telling him about the future. Even though they asked for and got pardon, some had to deal with the consequences of their acts. One of them was sent to jail. Over time, his marriage to his wife grew stronger, and he clung tightly to the hope of one day going back to that heavenly light. It gave him hope and comfort to talk about his story after 31 years. It confirmed his faith that everyone would finally enter a better world ruled by a watchful Heavenly Father.